So hi everyone, my name is Andrea Creamer and I'm the PCN Community Engagement Coordinator. Welcome to PeerTalks, Life Stories, the Human Side of Addiction. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the BurnabyCoronavirus.com website. Burnaby Primary Care Networks respectfully acknowledges that the work we do as individuals and as an organization takes place on the unceded, traditional, and ancestral lands of the Hul'qumi'num and Squamish-speaking people. We are grateful for the opportunity to work on this sacred and shared territory together. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A function to ask a question. This afternoon, we are joined by Dilpreet Tiara, coordinator of the Burnaby Community Action Team, as well as two peers from the CAT. Thank you for joining us today. Dilpreet?
Hi, thank you everyone for joining us. Yes, the CAT has been here for the last 3 years and we're trying to do some great work with our peers and creating services in the city of Burnaby. So take it away, Jason.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, my name's Jason. I'm 48 now, and doing this is my third time talking about my story, for like from kind of start till the end. When I was doing it, I forgot how it gets triggering for me anyway, and I'm also quite nervous talking, so you might have to bear with me a little bit. But other than that, it's worked out pretty good. My mom and dad split up when I was quite young. I think I was 4. And then he wasn't much my real dad, but my mom had another guy, my stepdad. He wasn't much of a role model. He was actually quite an abusive person. He was into drugs, drinking, all kinds of stuff. So growing up, I witnessed a lot of stuff from him. And it definitely didn't work out the best having a role model like that around, I guess you could say. I also, since I had no direction from him, and my mom wasn't around much, well, she's around, but he kind of kept everybody quiet, I guess. I had to learn to fend for myself and a lot of things, just learn a lot of things on my own. So, which kind of kept me quiet too. I think I didn't learn to ask for help or anything like that ever. Just kept everything to myself and just kind of kept it bottled up and stuff. I graduated high school in 91, and for the next, it was only about a year or two after high school, I started to use drugs, cocaine, I guess you call it, just on the weekends, so the weekend warrior, they used to call us. And then it made me feel good, I guess you could say, gives you that confidence and stuff, kind of like alcohol does, which led to me using it more and more. And then got to the point where my job couldn't sustain how much I was using. So then I ended up selling it. And I don't like to say this, but it seems like I did pretty well for myself doing that. So I ended up quitting my job, and I did that for 22 years. During that time, I got married, had a family, had a son who's 23 now, a daughter, she's 14 now. That went okay for a while, and after so many years, 10, 12 years, some of the stuff I guess that I saw growing up started to filter out into my relationship. And as time went on and I used more and more drugs, I became more angry, more mean, abusive and stuff like that. And also a lot of people know if you are selling drugs and stuff for a living, it's not a nice, easy way to make a living. So that also, it seems like I kind of played right into all that. It's like I was prepped from when I was a kid until I became an adult to go that way, which I wouldn't recommend that for anyone. It's a horrible way to live and make a living. Yeah, there was 18 years we were together, and it was about 15 years in, I started to use opiates, and that really took me out. I spent 15 years being able to pay all my bills, buy a home, buy cars, do quite well, even though I was still using cocaine a lot. But when I got into the opiates, first it was the pills, and then like a lot of people, I didn't use it for pain. I just used it for recreational use at first, and then a lot of people know you become addicted to that stuff to the point that you don't want to not have it because you get the term dope sick and stuff, which is an extremely horrible thing to have happen to you. I know you put the drugs in the body yourself, so it's your fault, but that is the worst pain and time I ever had when I was using, was when I'd get dope sick. Anyway, so yeah, the last 3 years there, I just spiraled out of control. I pushed everybody away. My wife just couldn't handle me anymore. And it got to the point I just didn't care. So she ended up leaving after 18 years there. And I spent another 2 or 3 years before I tried to get clean. But during those 2 or 3 years, that was probably the worst time of my life. Like I said, I spiraled right out of control. And to the point I was homeless, which is another horrible thing that happened to you, especially when you go from living quite nicely and, providing for yourself for a long, long time, and then being homeless. And the only thing you could think of is not food, it's not nothing, it's just to get high again. And you do anything to get high, which is another horrible thing, because a lot of people are good people out there that do get addicted to drugs, and they normally would never do 99% of the stuff they do, but because of that addiction is so strong, it'll make you do whatever you got to do to get the money or to get the drugs to remain high. And it's I got a lot of, I guess you could say, horrible memories from all that kind of stuff. A lot of shame from it too. It's been 5 years, a little over 5 years from the first day where I went to get clean. Basically, I ran myself right into the ground. I had nothing left in the gas tank, you could say. No fight left in me. Didn't care if I lived or died at all. And that is on its own quite a weird feeling when you actually really don't care if you lived or died. It's a different feeling. So my mom actually scraped me up off the sidewalk basically after being locked up for the weekend for fighting. And she just was beside herself to see her son. I'm a pretty big guy. I think I must have lost 80, 90 pounds or something like that. So she was like, she put me up at a hotel on the outskirts of town so I wouldn't be close to any of the people I normally hung out with. And she took me to my first NA meeting, October 12th, 2015. And I would have said if I would have tried to quit sooner, I don't think that none of that stuff would have stuck for me. But because I was just so done, like I had years, like 4 or 5 years before that happened, just wanting to quit, but I couldn't. Every day wanting to quit. I just can't. And so that's one thing that I think kind of helped me, believe it or not, stay fairly clean. The first few years I had a few slip ups, but the last 2.5 years now, I haven't had any, and it feels really good. But during that time when I was getting clean there, without my mom's help, I couldn't have got clean. I would have probably died of an overdose, actually. Not probably, I would have, for sure. My mom and I would spend 3-4 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week, trying to get around from different places, organizations, trying to get help for treatment, detox, or like second housing, all that kind of stuff. And mind you, that was like 5-6 years ago. I know it's a bit better now, but back then it was in Victoria, and it was just nobody was connected to anybody else, which made it just a real horrible thing to try to get through. Like if I didn't have my mom driving me place to place and stuff, I couldn't see how a regular addict could ever, get through that. It was horrible. It was just, we spent 20 hours a week. I think we added it up for weeks on end, trying to get me into different treatment centers and stuff. And eventually we kind of learned the ropes a little bit. And I got into a treatment center and stuff. And at first, it was a little scary, I guess you could say. But I found as I got cleaner and my head kind of got back to normal somewhat, I would take up any course I could get to learn about what happened to me, learn how to live clean, how to actually just even live properly, like as a regular tax-paying citizen, because I really didn't do that. And so I can't even remember how many classes and courses. I took everything I could get my hands a hold of for a few years there, which made a big difference. And after that, that was 5 years ago, yeah. After I had finished my treatment and all that kind of stuff, and then went to a second stage housing, I was doing pretty well by then. Still have some physical problems, I guess you could say, from all the drug using and stuff like that, and definitely some mental or psychological ones too, which I think a lot of people, if they are heavy addicts, like heavy users for a long time, they come out, if they do get clean, they come out, they usually have something that's not working right, or, you know, they have a lot of stuff that they need to fix. So I've been going to counseling now too for 3 years, which has helped me understand how, from being a kid to seeing what I saw with my stepdad and experiencing all the stuff that he did, which was horrible. And then to see how I kind of went down the same path, it definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't really realize I did for the reason I did. But it is all helping me put pieces back together, or closing old wounds kind of thing, and just basically getting back on track and stuff. And being able to deal with life without using drugs. Like normally in the past, something got stressful, I'd get high. If I got angry a lot too, and I'd go get high and stuff. So now I'm learning to, if I get angry, to not first of all reach for the phone to call to get some drugs. It's different tools they'll teach you and stuff. So I could learn to deal with that and stuff, and which is good, because without those tools and stuff, I definitely wouldn't be able to stay clean either. Like, yes. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off track a bit here. So yeah, in the last couple of years, I've been trying to think. I got more time on my hands now and stuff. To give back, I guess, to so many things that I took from a lot of people over the years, which was a lot. So I went to my sponsor actually and asked him, is there something I could do, like volunteer and stuff like that? I'm like, I have no experience at it, kind of thing, but I definitely want to try and give something back, because when I did get help, I got help from a lot of really good people when I was able to finally figure out how everything worked and get into different programs and stuff. And there was a ton of really good people out there that helped me. So it was that reason, and also from when I was using and selling and stuff, I took a lot from other people too. So I have that guilt, I guess you could say, and I just I don't expect to be forgiven for it, but I just want to try to give back and do the best I can to kind of make up for a lot of bad things. And that's kind of how I got here. My sponsor had told me about the peer group and stuff, and I went to a couple meetings, and it seemed to fit me quite well. And that was over a year now I've been going. And a couple of things are coming up now that I can actually start, like this. And there's some other things that are coming up that I'll be able to do to help give back. And I think also it helps me with my recovery and stuff too, being able to do these things. Because I definitely still have a lot of residual or bad not thoughts, but just feelings and stuff for everything that's happened and things I've done and stuff. So this definitely helps with the healing and recovery process. And that's basically taken me pretty much right up to nowadays kind of thing. I still go to my counseling weekly, which is something I think almost everybody should have to do, because it's huge for me anyway. So I do that, and try to go to the NA meetings, but since coronavirus came around, we only do the Zoom ones, and I used to get a lot more out of being there in person. I'm more of a person who would rather see you face to face. But that, and then there's other things I do too. There's other classes I still try to take and stuff, and you gotta choose your own way. If like if it walks, hikes, stuff like that, that helps with my recovery. Everybody's different. Some people like to do painting, whatever, so that helps them. But yeah, that's pretty much taken me right up to nowadays. I guess I even forgot to mention I even go to church now, which I've never done before. And actually, at first, kind of dragged my heels a bit, but now that I've gone enough times, there's a lot of good people there, and it definitely helps. Another with my healing too, going to church, believe it or not. Any of my old, I wouldn't call them friends, but any of the old people I used to know wouldn't believe that I do these things now, but it definitely makes me a happier, better person, no doubt about that. Yeah, that's pretty much brought me up to today. That's most of my story. I could be here a lot longer telling you my story, but we don't have so much time. So it's pretty much brought me right up to now. There's some questions or.
No, thanks, Jason. That was great. I think, Andrew, should we move on to Jane and then we'll do questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're listening. Jane, would you like to share? You just have to unmute yourself, okay?
Hi, my name's Jane. I've been active in the CAT program I started in New West and then I moved over to Burnaby Group at a later date. So I've been in it for quite a few years now. I'm guesstimating about 4, I guess. And my story starts a long time ago. I fell into addiction in my early 20s through drinking. And then I recognized that addiction immediately for myself because my mom was an AA member. And I went to Alateen and I went to AA roundups when we lived in rural Saskatchewan, because that's where my mother hailed from. And she had split up with my father. So basically, I guess my AA and my whole experience of it started in my teenage years and grew from there. Thank goodness I had a bit of that AA and Al-Anon backing behind me because it made me more aware than per se the average person would be, I imagine. I feel really self-conscious right now, so just bear with me.
Doing
great.
When I was later on, a number of years later, like I'd always dabbled in coke. It was never a big issue for me. It was kind of more like go to the bar with the girls and snort a few lines and dance up a storm sort of idea. And I didn't think it was an issue for me. And at that point, it wasn't. It was later on when I met my future husband, who unfortunately his favorite choice was also cocaine, but he preferred to do it in a different manner than I did, which was mainlining it, which for people that don't know is using intravenously. Of course, curiosity, as I said, kills the cat. And I went by for a number of months without touching it in that manner, but I just had to try it right once, right? Mistake number one. As soon as I did that first intravenous shot, I was hooked. And it was like I disappeared into it. I was still there, but I wasn't. And I was going along. I kept my job. I worked basically an 8:30 to 4:30 job Monday to Friday. I had a good job. I kept going to my work every day and keeping my job in wrapper. So I thought, until I went to work one day and my boss looked at me and says, "Jane, your clothes are falling off. You have to get," because I worked in an office setting, "you've got to get some new apparel." And I'm like, "Holy." And I went out and got them, didn't think anything of it. But it was like shortly after that, of her saying that to me, I woke up one morning and I looked in the mirror and it was like, it was the first time I'd seen myself in a year. It was like I'd been gone for a year and just returned to my body or something. It was bizarre because I could see the great big black bags under my eyes. And I could see how skinny I was, and the strong wind could pick me up and blow me away, you know? And I was just like, okay, I went to my doctor immediately. And fortunately back then, this was in 94, 95. Back then, it wasn't hard to get into detox. There wasn't great big long lineups around the block. It was like my doctor made a call and I was in the next day. So And the irony of it is that same day I went home, I was now living at my father-in-law's house, renting with my husband, my future husband. And he said, you guys are so lucky because today was the day I was going to kick your asses out, because I'm upstairs dying of cancer, in recovery in AA, and you guys are downstairs killing yourself every day, and I can't stand it anymore. And it's like God works in mysterious ways, as they say, right? Your angels are always riding on your shoulders. In my case, they have been. I've been very fortunate that way. I've always had somebody watching me, angels, my dead folks, whoever you believe in. I believe when we lose somebody, we physically lose them from this life, but we don't spiritually lose them. They're always with us right here in our hearts. We carry them with us. And I believe they're like angels on our shoulders guiding us through our lives. I know it sounds really crazy, but my mother's been passed since 2017. And shortly after she passed, I was going through a really rough patch. And I literally could feel her arms around me. Maybe it was just my mind, I don't know. But it felt like I could feel her there with me. And I'm very blessed. Like, my mother was a very wise woman. She had 21 years of sobriety. And like people say, you can never go back. And it's true. But I tend to believe in what my mother believed. And she believes if you truly deal with your issues, that nothing can be addictive for you when you've walked all those miles through your shit and dealt with it all, you can get to the other side. So for right now, I'm choosing Smart Recovery, and I'm also in the methadose program. So that's my alternative right now, and it's working for me. And I'm learning. I have a lot of physical pain in my body because I worked hard. I worked all my life until I was 45, and my body decided to go left, and I went right. Right. So it's like I thought I was a failure because my body would no longer work, but then it suddenly clicked. My brain still works just fine. I can do other alternatives. I can help and give back to the community. And being involved in this group has been excellent for me because it keeps me from falling off the rails, if you know what I mean, which means getting misguided by my addiction and staying on the path that I want to walk today. And that's keeping my mind and my psyche clear and being able to offer help to others, right, on their journeys. And because this is part of who we are. It's not just something you throw away 10 seconds later and walk away from it. It's always going to be there with you. And I think it's really important to stay in the here and now. Like, yesterday's history, tomorrow is a mystery. Today is the present. It is a gift. Treated as such. That's a really important saying to me. I repeat that a lot for myself. Yeah, and when I went into detox, it was not near as hard as I thought it would be, because coming off cocaine is like easy peasy, right? I didn't have any addiction to opiates at that time. I dabbled in a bit, but somebody wise amongst the group has said, don't use heroin 3 days in a row, because if you do, you're hooked, right? And a lot of people don't even know that. They don't know that on your third day of use, that's it. Your body's now physically, not only are you mentally addicted to it, you're physically addicted to it. And a lot of people out there today, I believe, still don't even know that. So many people out there don't even know the difference between fentanyl and real heroin. I was around back then when there was still heroin. So it's like, I'm looking at these kids as they're selling green and blue and whatever. That's fentanyl. Well, you skis, you have a large selection of fentanyl, but you don't seem to have any heroin in there. It's like ludicrous, and so many people don't even know. It's I think it's really important for myself to get out and do one-on-one contact with people out there and say, look, if it burns clear on your tinfoil, it's not down at all. It's fentanyl. If it just leaves a clear circle around there and it's multicolored, no, heroin doesn't come in multicolored rainbow packs. Go and get it tested. That's where we have testing sites down in Vancouver. You can walk into an insight and they'll test your stuff for you, so you know what you're putting in your body. Excuse me, my idea of having fun on a day isn't taking one hoot and going into a deep sleep and never coming to. That's you get your product tested. That's why they're available for you guys out there. there's Insight in Vancouver. I'm not sure where they do on-site testing besides in my addiction. It was crazy though, because I was like a walking, talking zombie. I would get home from work at 4:30, and I would try and catch a couple hours of Z's before my future fiance or husband would come home from work, and then off we'd be on the railroad track of doing coke all night, and usually lay down about 2 in the morning, toss and turn for a couple hours, drive him to catch his ride to work, come back, maybe get a couple hours solid sleep, and then off to work. I'd go off to the races. One thing I've always proud of that I did when I was in recovery, I was in a job position that could have paid for my treatment and for my recovery house, and I chose to go into debt because I looked at how much money I'd spent on my addiction, and to me it was my responsibility to get myself out of this, and I took on the financial responsibility of it too, because to me it didn't seem right to let a system pay for something that I created on my own. And I was in a financial position where I could do that, fortunately. For a lot of us, when we get that far gone, we're not in a financial position, but I was able to do that, and I always put a little pat on my shoulder for that one, because I was taking responsibility for the actions I chose, right, all the way. And I've always recovery is a really awesome thing, and it's whatever works for you, right? Make your recovery program be what works for you. If going to AA and NA works for you, then do it. Whatever works for you. I mean, I go to a lot of AA meetings because I don't know, I think I feel really comfortable there because my mother was originally associated with AA, and it feels comfortable. It's like old home for me because I used to go to meetings with my mom when I was little and stuff, when she couldn't get a sitter for me or whatever. And yeah, I really believe that everybody can have their own life back. It's just a matter of taking your horse by the reins and reeling them in and collecting them up a bit, getting them underneath you so that you don't lose control of your horse on a runaway trail, you know. How am I doing for time? I'm really I'm feeling a little nervous, but
You're good, Jane. It's okay.
Anyways, I hope everybody finds their way back home, and back home is home to yourself. We've never left home. Home is right here in your heart. So when you feel like you're lost and you're all alone, you aren't, because you're right at home. Wherever you are is your home right now. And remember that it's really important to value yourself and value who you are, because you're not a bad person because they're using, you're a good person. You just find your way back home to yourself. That's all. Never give up. Just keep going forth. And you too shall succeed. Keep on keeping on, as I say. Yeah, buddy.
Thanks. Thanks to both of you, Jane and Jason. I really appreciate you both sharing. Dilpreet, is it okay if I ask a question?
Go right ahead. We're good.
Both of you have actually, you both touched on that you family that also had addiction issues. And I'm wondering, did they speak very directly to you about their addiction?
For me, my stepdad, my mom wasn't into any of that stuff, but he didn't talk to me about it at all. He was just would do it wherever he wanted to. He was the kind of guy who liked to talk with his hands, not his mouth. So yeah, he just would just do whatever. And no, nobody ever pulled us aside, because I had a brother too, so he saw a lot of it too. But he didn't go down the same path as me. But no, nobody ever had pulled me aside and said, this is not good, or this is not what you want, kind of thing. So for me, I had nobody that should do anything like that. So anything with anybody trying to do anything with trying to get help or clean or anything like that at
all. For myself, with growing up with my mother in AA, I was fortunate in that matter, because she had been years as an alcoholic until I was in grade 5. She was in active addiction, and from grade 5 all the way up until I was in my early 20s, she was still going to AA meetings and involved, and having that, because she made a point, even though we were in rural Saskatchewan, she'd take me to the AA roundup, because then they had a bit of everything there. They had Alateen, and I was fortunate that way. And my mother was always really straightforward with me. I was lucky. I had a mother who sat me down at 26 and said, I didn't give you what you needed and deserved when you were younger, but I'm here for you today, which is totally awesome. I mean, how many people ever hear those words out of their parents' mouths, right? Very few. So feel very blessed to have the mother that I had in my life. Yeah.
That's great. I have another question, maybe kind of centered around family. Is what would you recommend, like family or friends, to do or to say to support a loved one towards wellness while they're, while they're an addict?
Do you want to go first, Jane, or Jen?
Sure. I feel it's really important to tell that person that you love them, accept them just for who they are today, because part of who they are right in that moment is their addict self. And that's part of them. And even when they get clean and sober, it's still going to be part of them. So it's important to just embrace all of them and love them for who they are, because they're beautiful people underneath all the shit piles on top.
For me, I would be basically the same thing. You'd be there for them when they're ready, though. Like, you can lead the horse to water, but it doesn't want to drink, kind of thing. It won't. So the person has to be ready to want to get clean. Yeah. Don't give them any money either. They'll try to get money out of you any way possible, and that will just make things a lot worse and just prolong their addiction. It's a little bit of tough love, I guess you could say, but just be there for when they're ready. And it definitely is going to be a hard, long road. I bet too many people who their family members had it pretty easy when someone's had a very bad addiction problem, where they were like, "Oh, we said you shouldn't do this." I said, "Sure," and we all lived happily ever after. I've never heard of anything like that. It's usually a pretty bumpy, rocky kind of road, but just be there for them and don't give them any money. That's about what I'd have to say.
Dilpreet, do you have a question?
Yeah, what would you tell, like, I get that you guys started later for your addiction piece. What would you tell our youth these days if you were talking to the youth of how would you approach them, or how would you talk to them about not using, or, if they are using, how to be safe and stuff like that?
I guess I could go first. I would tell them this fentanyl problem, it doesn't matter how strong you are or how cool you are, kind of thing, you will not be able to beat it. It will take you down or take you out even worse. There's not many things like you meet too many people who are retired addicts who are doing really, really well, and they're very happy and stuff. A lot of us have to work really hard at it and stuff. And so it's I always tell my kids, you can stay in school and you'll be surprised. It may seem things suck right now and all that, but be good, stay in school, and things will pan out better for you. But don't give in to peer pressure either. And like I said, nowadays your drugs are so toxic, they're not even what they say they are anymore. Everything nowadays has got that fentanyl stuff in it. You just got to look out the window, and people are dropping like flies everywhere. And it will get you too. You think it won't, but it will get you eventually. If you're using hard drugs and stuff, it will get you eventually. So it's best to stay away.
If either of you had the opportunity, or maybe you've had the opportunity to access a safe supply, would you have used it?
Would you? Most definitely, because it's better to have a safe supply than to be accessing something off the street that you don't even know where it came from or how many hands it's passed through and how much has it had fentanyl attitude or not. I mean, everything out there has some amount of fentanyl in order to move it on as an industry, as they say, a business. You have to have, but I know up till about 5 years ago, I was able to still access real, because I knew people that I'd known for 30 years. And that was the only reason why, right? But this thing I find scariest out there is that the young people don't even know what heroin is and what fentanyl is. And to me, that's really scary because anything that I had this young kid telling me, oh, it's just colored down colored so that we know it's ours. And I said, bullshit, it's fentanyl, it's green. If it's colored under the rainbow, it's fentanyl. That's my major model, right? And I don't buy it. I make a point of only purchasing from one person only. I've gone sick for days before because of that. When I do purchase anything, but I try to stay with my program because the further I get away from me, the further, and I'm learning other methods to deal with my pain, because that's why I'm hooked on heroin per se today, is because of severe chronic pain that I suffer from. And I'm working with other, like meditation through my mind to deal with my pain so that I can override the pain and go through my day without using other sources to get through my day. That's what I'm reteaching myself right now, so that I can go off of anything and everything, so that I'm living my life as pure and as clean as I possibly humanly can. Yeah.
I would say too, I would definitely nowadays if I had access to clean drugs, I definitely would go down that path. I think the younger kids though, it's, because it's a little bit maybe more involved to go to the doctors or whatever and get a prescription and all that. Where some of these younger kids like the thought of, I'm a gangbanger or whatever, I'm a gangster or whatever, I'm going to get dope for my buddy, he's got the best around, that kind of stuff. So I almost would think it would be older people who would be more interested in doing that. But I could be wrong because I haven't really been like out in the streets kind of thing for a while now. But me personally, yes, I definitely would access. If I had access to clean drugs, I would take that for sure.
I have another question. What either one of you could answer. Do you think it's helpful or harmful for someone to offer unsolicited help to someone that's using substances? So, for example, like if a community service provider is out in the community and they come across somebody that is clearly under the influence and starts to talk to them, maybe offers them a card. What are your thoughts about that kind of interaction?
Do you want me to take that, Jason, or do you want to take it?
Sure, you can take that one.
Okay, I believe you have to go on a one-to-one basis, judging how that person is receptive to you. If they seem receptive to you personally, and they seem like there's something there between the two of you, got a common ground to stand on per se. You can be years apart, but you can feel a commonality amongst you. If you feel comfortable, then go ahead and approach that person with what you have to offer them. But if you don't feel that comfort zone, then don't go into that zone, because you're treading onto their personal space. And a lot of people automatically pull back when you go into their personal space. And it's important to recognize that they have rights and choices to make for themselves too, right? Only offer help where you feel it's wanted, I guess is my point. Yeah.
Jason, do you have anything to say to that?
No, Jane pretty much said everything. One thing I have to say, you got to be careful sometimes too. Some people just don't want to talk to you, and you bother them, they'll lash out at you and stuff too. So you definitely have to be careful. But she said, if you feel that, there's a commonality, or if you feel safe the first minute that you talk to them, you usually get a pretty good vibe if you've been around or been out in the streets and you talk to somebody, and whether or not they want to talk to you or not, pretty quick. But definitely you need to be careful, because, like I said, some people just don't want to talk to them, not want to be bothered, and they will show you like their meat end of the stick per se if you bother them. So it's definitely something you got to be a little bit careful about. But there are people out there that definitely do want help too, right? So
Yeah.
you've got to go out there and do that.
Either one of you could answer. Dilpreet, is that okay if I keep going?
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks. Do either of you have any thoughts about how we can reduce stigma, so that, trauma, because obviously trauma and our, you know, the world that we experience can have a dramatic effect on our lives. So how do we reduce the stigma that trauma brings, that so that it becomes something that doesn't need to be hidden from people and can be treated?
You want me to answer this one, or?
Go ahead, and I have my little spiel I'll tell at the end and after you answer.
Okay, education, definitely. Me personally, I've experienced a lot of this bad part of the stigma. A lot of it's because of the way I look, I guess. And even when I've been clean, I've go to the emergency room for something's wrong with me, and the doctors will look at me. They don't want to help me. Straight up. One guy told me, "What are you doing here?" That's what the doctor told me. "We can't help a guy like someone like you." I wasn't there trying to get pain medicine or anything like that. I had issues with my knees, right? I needed something for the information, but not pain. Yeah, you just basically, there's the door, buddy. So education, I think, is a huge, huge thing. That would probably be the best for the stigma, but it's just get people talking about it more. Things like this are excellent. But for me, I would say the best would be to educate people and stuff, because it's definitely, there's a lot of that out there, and a lot of people don't understand. Like, I noticed when I first was getting clean, stuff like that, there were a lot of people I would know from before who didn't have a lot of experience with addicts or people getting clean. They're always like, "You're just a junkie bum, you're going to rob me, or you're going to do this and you do that." And that's not the case in most of the time. They're good people. They just made bad choices, or bad things have happened to them, and you know, they're suffering, and they could use a little bit of help, a little bit of dignity. You give them a little bit of dignity, goes a long way too, I've noticed. But yeah, definitely education, just people talking about it and stuff. I mean, that would be, you know, just
And I just wanted to say, not this past paycheck day, but the day before, I went onto the bus. I had my mask, and then I had a Mardi Gras mask on too, with feathers and a fake stone on it. And I got onto the bus and I asked the bus driver if I could have a few moments of his patron's time. And he said, "Sure, just stay behind the red line." And I did. And I stood there and I said, "Hi, I'm glad to see everybody's masked up out there." And then I flipped that mask up and I said, "I just want to remind everybody out there, today is a check issue day for people. And people are dropping out there from opiates as much as they are from the COVID crisis. Not quite as high, of course, but there's enough families losing their loved ones. And it's like I always say, everybody is somebody's somebody. And it's really important to remember that out there. And that's my way of reducing the stigma, is walking around and saying to people that I don't even know, remember, everybody's somebody's. Right? Yeah. We're all important to somebody out there. And if nothing else, we're important to ourselves, even if we are in active addiction or not. We love ourselves underneath all our garbage we've got stacked in, and that's what's created our addiction. For myself, that's the way I feel. It's a matter of removing those layers and getting back to me, and always make people feel comfortable. It's nothing to be ashamed of. There's many addictions. There's sexaholism, there's workaholism, there's many addictions out there. Our world is literally built on the back of addiction. I look at it that way. Anyways, thank you.
Jane, you have some nice little tidbits. It's like you need to do a PSA. I like it. It's good. Dilpreet, did you have a question?
If you guys had an advocate, would that have helped for you to start using in the beginning, or yeah, or now?
I know for me, my mom was my advocate to help me get clean, and yes, an advocate would make a huge difference. Anyway, in my case, and I would think a lot of other people too, because you just when you're in a full-blown addiction stuff, you just don't have your head all the way, together and stuff, and you just try to remember an appointment or things like that is actually difficult, believe it or not, right? So having an advocate definitely.
Is that because you lose track of time when you're in your addiction?
Yeah, that too. You go get high, you have no idea what day it is and stuff. So if you had somebody who knew where you worked, knew where you lived or where you were at, that could go get you or remind you, kind of thing and stuff. People And I need you to just make sure you make those appointments and make those meetings in order to get into the programs and stuff. I think we go a long way.
Mhm. Jane, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I can relate because fortunately, from the fact that I think that was my saving grace, even though I was in full blown addiction when I was mainlining cocaine. That's the one thing that kept me online, is I knew I had to get to work Monday to Friday, right, 8:30 to 4:30, and then it would be like Friday would hit, and it would be like, oh my God, I can go to sleep and I don't have to wake up in the morning. Yeehaw! Right? Like I could just sleep. It was like that was, thank God for weekends, because that was I could actually get rest and well, I always ate breakfast and lunch because I knew supper was shot, right? And that's the only thing that I think rode me through it, is knowing that I had responsibilities that I still had to be responsible for, regardless of what was going on in my life. And it's like, never give up on yourself, and don't think that you're lost and you're never going to come back, because if you worked before and you had a good job, you can do it again. Never give up on yourself. You're your best candidate to get better is yourself. Always have faith and tell yourself you love yourself. Stand in front of a mirror and tell yourself you love yourself until you really believe it. Do that every day. I tell people that all the time. I say, find a mirror wherever you are. It doesn't matter if it's a little tiny compact. Look in it and tell yourself that you truly love yourself. It does something for the spirit and soul inside, and it's very important, I believe.
Do you think that someone that's using substances has like forgotten to love themselves? Is that why they're dabbling more into their addiction?
I think you go further and further from yourself the further you fall into your hole of addiction. And that's why in the program we always say we'll love you until you learn to love yourself. When people come through the doors and they're brand new, fresh off the apple cart, as we say, right?
Yeah.
I say, you just came in and you're fresh to the program. Maybe you've never been in the program. Maybe you know nothing about it. Maybe you know something about it.
Mhm.
I hope to think that most people know something about it. I hope that we're making people more aware and understanding of how important it is. Like when you see somebody and you think they're just sleeping, take the time to tap your foot with their foot. Make sure you've got a good space so that if they wake up and jump like this and go to protect themselves, they aren't going to grab you.
Yeah.
When you live on the street, people wake up shocked a lot of times, right? Yeah. But I take the time to check on people, see, are they nodding off, or are they full blown, they're ODing right in front of my nose and I don't even recognize it? Because with the shit that's on the streets now, one puff and they're down and out. Yeah. Let alone putting it into a syringe and using it in that manner. I can't even imagine. Like, God, it's just, I myself have had somebody go down in front of me before, and I didn't have an oxygen kit on my side, and I stayed with that person for 12 hours. They were a friend of mine, and I brought him back two more times that same 12-hour period. Doing CPR.
You do.
And unfortunately, God rest his soul, he passed. No.
Sorry to hear that. What did you do since you didn't have an naloxone kit? Did you
I
give them?
did a cold water shock. If you can get the cold, if you have cold water, I don't care if it's on their couch, if it's on their bed or where it is. Just take cold water, as cold as you can get it, dump it over their head, because what that does is it shocks their brain to start their heart. Once their heart starts beating again, if you're doing CPR and your heart compressions and your mouth to mouth, the heck with COVID, I'm more about saving somebody's body and keeping them alive, because if they don't have oxygen in the system, doing heart compressions ain't doing nobody good, because the oxygen runs out and now they're getting deprivated. The brain is getting denied the oxygen it needs to stay alive. That's really important.
Important for oxygen to the brain, definitely.
Yeah,
The breathing receptors need to stay open in order for them to keep going.
exactly.
Yeah. Andrew, did you have your next question?
I do. So there was, I'm going to ask two more questions, I think, before we wrap up, if we have enough time. There was a question in the that somebody has submitted, and it's around what has been your experience in trying to access detox or treatment services?
I could start if you want. Me,
Sure.
it's been a while, but when I tried to, it was difficult. There's a lineup and stuff. I know when I started in the beginning too, trying to get on, like say the methadone program, even stuff like that. And they're like, you got to wait 3 weeks. So just try to use a little bit and don't die between now and 3 weeks. Right.
Yeah.
And like Victoria's not as big as here. So I'm not sure what it's like over here, but over there, you got to wait. It's not, I don't know if it's gotten better now. Hopefully it has. But when I was trying to get in, you had to wait. And it's just really hard because especially nowadays, the people dropping like flies. That timing is probably very crucial, right? So yes, I had troubles trying to access a place to get help and just try to stay clean.
Shall I answer that one too?
Yeah, sure, Jane.
Yeah, I feel like I was mentioning back in 1994, which is a long time ago, and 95, it was really easy to access the detox because my fiance actually got into detox in Vancouver the next day after I'd gone to Maple Cottage. And it was also very easy to access. Since a lot of the detox centers are set in what I consider not as hospitable conditions. They're set in hospital conditions with forced air, no windows that open. You feel like you're locked in and you're a prisoner, and you get that fight and fight. You know, that's what happened for me. And when I tried going to one, I think they should have, like, also when I did my treatment, I did treatment in Aurora House when Aurora House was still in a great big beautiful house in West Vancouver, and it was wonderful and it was awesome. And they need to have more resources with more of a human touch to them, is my feel on it.
Definitely. I would agree there 100%.
Did you feel discouraged when it was difficult to get into treatment or detox? That you should just keep on using because you can't get into a place?
For me, oh yeah, if I did, like I said, my advocate as my mom was, if I didn't have the help, I would have just kept using, probably more discouraged than ever, and more likely to probably die of an overdose because you get so discouraged, you just don't care. You know, someone's like, if you're going to take that, you got a 50-50 chance to live right now. I would probably, back in the day, I would ask for 2 then. It's just, you just don't care kind of thing. So yeah, it's like timing again, and having somebody there to advocate and stuff like that for you, I think makes a big difference. But
yeah, I agree with them about having the advocate. A lot of people don't have their voice when they're out there. They've lost their voice amongst the many voices, and they don't think anybody can hear them anymore. And it's really important that we have people out there that are willing to stop and listen to that person when they need to be listened to right in that moment of time, because that's that window, that opportunity that you have. If you reach in and can help somebody out of there, that's great. But if you don't hit them on the right moment, when they're reaching and asking for the help and they're getting this, oh, you have to wait 3 weeks to get into detox. Well, how discouraging, right, is that? Like, well, I may as well just go out and get stoned again, is what happens to a lot of people's brain thought. It depends how much they truly, I've been fortunate, I guess, because I've always had an inner love that my mother planted in there, to always remember that I'm a worthwhile person and I'm just as worthwhile as the next person. I'm fortunate in that matter, I guess. Yeah. But I understand the importance of being there when it's necessary.
I have might be our last question. What do you think is missing in Burnaby that better support people that use substances?
you want to go first, Jen?
Yeah, from what I know with Burnaby, we're lacking in a lot of the areas. We need to get more people out on the street, doing one-on-one, which I'm willing to do myself, doing harm reduction supplies. I think it's important that people don't just attach it to a figurehead, more personal, one-on-one basis, regular people going out and doing the rounds and just being there for somebody to talk to. If they just need somebody to listen while they're grabbing their harm reduction supplies, because that's like opening a door for them, right? And if I can open that door, I feel like I'm blessed if I have that moment to open that door. Yeah.
I would say the same thing. Just having feet on the ground kind of thing, having a presence out there kind of thing. That's the same for me as what I would like to do too. Is be out there and kind of pounding the streets basically. And that would be, I think, a good first step. For Burnaby, from what I know too, is they seem like they need a help across the board kind of thing. So, but as far as for me personally, like I said, getting people out there, talking to people, letting them know, there's places you can go, or I can help you out with you need some supplies or whatever, or like just listen even, right? So definitely get more people out there, getting a presence out there, letting people know, there's people around to help, because I think it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better anytime soon, which is shitty to say, but I really don't think it's going to get better for a while. If it does.
Do you think people in Burnaby could use a detox center?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, I think that's all around, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely would agree, 100%.
Okay.
That would be awesome if they did that.
Yeah,
Yes.
more hands on.
Do either of you have any final thoughts or things that you would like to share?
If I could wave my magic wand and fix the whole world, I would, but I can't. I can only fix me. So I keep working on me and put one foot in front of the other and telling everybody else, keep on keeping on. Sooner or later, you'll be back home where you want to be.
Thanks.
Yeah, just fentanyl's a bad drug. It will get you eventually. So it's, you're playing Russian roulette with your life. An addiction, a lot of times you don't care, but like I said, get more people out there. So when that window's open, to have somebody there willing to reach in and help them pull them out I think would make a big difference.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say thank you again to Jason and Jane, and to Dilpreet, of course. And thank you to those that are have attended and those that are tuning in to watch the video. Again, this video will be available on the burnabykoronavirus.com website. And thank you very much. Keep tuned. We'll be having more Peer Talks sometime in the future. We're going to take a bit of a break, but we will be back. Thank you again to everybody for joining this evening.